Hello, it has been a year and like a few months since I last graced this as like an actual YouTube video. Okay, so my life fell apart just a little bit, right? We don't have to get into that. That was a whole thing. I'm currently back in the 3D printing area because I am currently printing and sanding 500 of these for a Loki costume. Not one of the cool Loki costumes, the one from like the first Thor movie. And it's like in the first 10 minutes, then also during the Frost Giant scene, like when he discovers he's a Frost Giant, right? Like I saw it and I was like, I want that. So here we are, making that, which also requires scale mail tunics, and I have to make all the scale mail for it, which means I have to print scales. This was my first foray into Blender. Like, I'm proud of it. Anyway, that's not what we're talking about. That's a whole video on its own. This is a video about buying versus making cosplay, because I'm going to make a short little, like, hi, I have returned to YouTube to make cosplay content because my brain is no longer, like, at war with itself. Anyway, hi. So, there is this debate on the internet and also in real life, and then it's been a debate since the beginning of cosplay mass manufacturing of buying versus making costumes. Which one's better? Oh, like, so the gist of it is that neither of them are better. You can buy or make your costume and you're still a cosplayer because, hey, guess what? You're still an adult playing dress up, or you're still a teenager playing dress up. Like, that's all it is. You're just playing dress up. No matter what you're doing with your cosplay, whether you're making it or buying it, you're still putting on a costume and playing dress up because that's the fun of it. But there's this debate on the internet from some people who are like, oh, you're not a real cosplayer if you don't make your costumes, which is a lie. Because a lot of the big name cosplayers, a lot of the people who do like international competitions, a lot of the people who are like big people, they buy their costumes. Fun fact, I buy things for costumes a lot. My Dean Winchester costume is like completely bought. Like I didn't make like a flannel and jeans. My Castiel costume, I didn't make the trench coat. I bought that thing off of Amazon. It's like, yeah, sure, I make costumes, but also sometimes you just want to wear the costume and you don't want to make it. And like, that's completely acceptable. Because making costumes takes forever. Like this Loki, even though it's like a small Loki, is taking me like a month. It's insane, right? Like, sometimes you just want the costume. Now, obviously, some costumes don't exist in mass manufacturing, right? Again, I'm going to use Loki as an example. He's got, like, 2-3 costumes that you can buy from. You got Ragnarok, you got Avengers, and you got the first Thor movie. And then, obviously, like, the Loki series ones, but those are also, a little easier to recreate. The one that I'm making doesn't exist in mass manufacturing at all. The other one that I made last year, the Jotunheim one, also doesn't exist in mass manufacturing at all. Basically, if you want to make anything from the first Thor movie, good luck. 1, the reference images, you get 3. Maybe concept art. That's it. And then you kind of have to suffer, because there's a lot of scales. Anyway, I've made a lot of Lokis. But yeah, so with that concept is like, obviously, mass manufactured costumes will only have like the really popular ones. They won't really have a lot of other ones. And then sometimes they steal like there's obviously that weird like ethical thing of like they'll steal cosplayer stuff, or like they'll take pictures. Like, yes, do your research if you're going to buy costumes. Don't just buy from any cosplay site willy-nilly, because they are indeed content thieves. And sometimes the stuff you receive when you order it is not going to match the picture because it's fast fashion and it's just a company wanting to make money, right? Like there is that concept to it, but there are like cosplay sites that are not like that. You have to do research. Again, where does this come from? This like idea of making costumes makes you a real cosplayer and buying costume makes you not a real cosplayer. Well, I think part of it comes from the early 2000s and like early 2010s, where you physically could not mass manufacture buy costumes, right? You were stuck with making the thing unless it was like a really popular character, then you can maybe get away with it. But for the most part, you had to make your costume because nothing existed ever on the internet. The wigs, trash. We didn't have Arta, we didn't have Epic Cosplay, Hopes and Dreams and Party City, and then Amazon so I joined the cosplay scene 2012-ish, so like I at least had like Amazon wigs and like some wigs online, but like it was still trash. Arta didn't really come around until like 2016. Bless. And then now we have wigs. Which is great. But yeah, so there's a whole that concept is that you had to make the costume if you wanted the costume, and now you don't have to make the costume if you want the costume. You can just buy the costume, boom. And you can buy the costume in many different qualities, right? You can buy the like $40 Amazon costume. It's not gonna be good. I'm going to tell you that right now, the $20-$40 Amazon thing that you want is not going to be a good quality, but like if you want it, you know, always iron it. Please iron your costumes when you get them out of the package. Oh my God, I cannot stand to go through a con and see the like fold wrinkles on. Please iron your costumes. I promise you they'll look a little bit better. Like those Jedi robes from Amazon, I know you bought it from Amazon by just the wrinkle folds still being in the, like the fold wrinkles still being on the costume. You're not going to melt it if with the iron on a low heat, or just put it on a steamer, or stick it in the shower while you're taking a really hot steam shower. Get it right out, right? That aside. So essentially, this concept of making versus buying cosplay is always a thing. It's been a thing. And I think back when it wasn't as popular to like buy costumes, it was a lot weirder to like be like, oh yeah, I bought this costume. It felt weird. Like I remember walking into a convention when I was like 13 with a bought Edward Elric cosplay, and I felt really bad about it being bought because it was like, well, that's not the cool thing to do. You have to make your costume. But I was 13 and my sewing experience was hand sewing little plushies in my room like a little child. My hand sewing was also trash. So, yeah, the sewing machine didn't really come out until I was like 19, which is, I think, shocking. But yeah, so anyway, it was a very different environment when I was like 14, 13, going to cons, and it was like, no, you have to make your costume or you're not valid. And so I just felt really bad. And then this is the only time where making is the only acceptable thing is in craftsmanship competitions for cosplay, right? Which again, it'll specify in the competition like rules that says, oh, you have to make like 70% of your costume. Now this is its own thing because craftsmanship competitions are obviously about craftsmanship and not like costume and character, right? So if you haven't made any part of your cosplay, well, it's nothing really to judge. Now people will lie. This is one of my biggest pet peeves as a cosplay judge and a cosplay competitor is the way people lie about making their costume, especially in a lot of competitions. In bigger competitions and smaller I mean, there's a whole stuff. There's some really good YouTube videos on it. I don't have all the info, but so many people have made great videos on it. But people will always lie about there's always somebody who's lied about their costume, I swear. You can tell too if they've lied about their costume because you know the quality. Right, like you've seen, like there's like the pro cosplay pictures you've seen and the mass manufactured ones that you see walking around. You're like, you totally made that yourself. Cool. Like it's wild that people do that. But yeah, no. So in craftsmanship competitions, you have to, you know, obviously you have to make your costume because you're being judged on your costume and the way that you made your costume. And if you haven't made your costume, what is there to judge, you know? So it's like, okay, so I have to make said costume because otherwise there's nothing there for the judges to look at. As much as people want to get on stage, I understand that there's competitions and there's categories for that too, I promise. So if you're a person who's, you know, I'm going on so many tangents, but if you're a person who has, you know, not made their costume but still wants to go on stage, sometimes there are runway competitions or runway category or exhibition category. That's for you. If you want to get on stage, but you haven't made your costume, that exhibition category is for you. So you can get on stage, you can like do cool stuff, right? Without like being someone who's known as cheating in cosplay competition by going into like novice or journeyman and then going up to the judges and completely lying out of your butt about your costume and how you made it, because they can tell. I can always tell when somebody is like, oh, I made this thing, and you're like, but did you? I found tags on things before, and they were like, I made this thing, and then there's a tag on it, and you're like, okay, cool. Or the quality of it is way too high for the costume, and you're like, but did you? And it, you know, because you can tell exactly what looks like mass manufacturing and what looks like, you know, craftsmanship, and it gets really hard. I think once you get to the higher competitions, that's where it's because people make stuff that is such high quality. It's wild. There's a lot in that area that I don't need to get into right now because that's a whole video. Anyway, so, but like in terms of competition, that's the only time that'll ever matter if you made your costume or not, because obviously what are the judges to judge if you didn't make your costume? Outside of that, if you're at a con and someone's like, oh, did you buy your costume? That's not cool. That's on them. That's straight up on them, because you're here. You're a cosplayer. You're at the hotel, you're at the convention center, you have the ticket, you're here, you're in costume, like that's all that matters. in the end, it doesn't matter if you made it or you bought it. As long as it follows the rules, and as long as it's like, you know, covering you and it fits and it's not falling apart, you're doing nothing wrong. Like, you can make your costume, you can buy your costume. Cosplay is for everyone, actually, and it's supposed to be fun. If you're not having fun, you're not doing it right. So anyway, hi, I've returned to the internet. I hope for more than just a week, because I have Loki and I'm excited, and this was just my first foray, but I hope this video was kind of fun. It's just a 10-minute little ramble. Have fun. This is the shop. Also, it's light outside right now.